the advanced data structures. And in advanced data structures, we will first go through something called sets. Okay, so sets is an unordered collection of unique elements, which means that you have already studied list. Okay, so in list you can have like 5 elements and all of them have the same value, can have the same value, 1, 2, let's say 2, 2, 2, 2. We can have 5 elements which have the value 2, but in sets we can not have repeated elements. The elements must always be unique. And the reason why we call it unordered, because the way we enter the values in a set, it may not be placed at the order that we put them in. So starting off from this set which contains already 5 elements, if I insert a next element, let's say 6th element, it may not be necessary that it will be placed at the last index or at the end of the set. It can be placed anywhere in between. Okay. So the elements in sets are unordered, as I discussed. And unordered means we cannot access elements based on their index values. Unlike list, in which we specify the name of the list, specify the index value, and we can retrieve the value placed at that index. Agreed? In sets, we cannot do that because the elements are unordered. We do not know their index values. So there are 2 unique things associated with sets. Elements are unordered and elements are unique. Okay. So syntax, how do we define sets, is using a set function, as same as we had a list function. Similarly, we have a set function. We can accept a sequence type iterable object like list. We can specify the list. Within this function, we can also specify tuple, a string, anything. Let's see an example here. So using the set function, we are specifying a list as an input. Okay. So here it converts it into a set and display the results as like this, the curly braces. Okay, so whenever you see a sequence of elements arranged in curly braces, it corresponds to a set. Okay, we can also initialize set using curly braces. Instead of using a set function, we can use a curly braces. Okay, so example nums equals curly brace 1, 2, 3, and it will create a set of unique elements. So the sets are used to remove duplicated data. So if you have like a list of student IDs, and if you think that students' IDs are duplicated, so you might have added student IDs a couple of times. All what we want to do is to remove the duplicate items. So what you can do here is you have a list. Let's say it has elements 1, 2, 3, 2, minus 3, 4, minus 5. So you can see 2 is repeated a couple of times here, minus 5 is repeated. When you pass this list into a set function, it will create a set of unique elements. It will remove any duplications. Okay. So remember this functionality. Whenever you have to remove any duplicated elements, you can do 2 things. Either you run a loop on list and compare if the element is already exists in the list, then remove it or create a new list out of it, or just simply pass the list into a set. It will automatically remove the duplicated items. Yeah.
Why is it ordered like that?
So the reason I mentioned that the elements in the sets are unordered. So the way we enter elements, it may not be necessary that the element that we are entering, we are putting in, it may be placed anywhere in the set. And this is the reason why we cannot access elements in the set by their index. Okay, so I cannot access this element saying that this is placed at 0th index. So when I run this, it might be placed somewhere else. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, minus 5. So minus 5 should, if it would be an ordered list, minus 5 should come first, and then minus 3, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I were to add a new element, okay, let's see here. Since the data is unordered, we cannot access the element using indexing. So my set 3 returns error because we cannot access any element by specifying the index value. Yeah.
So like would it always be like randomized? Like if you like
Yeah.
ran like two different, ran it two different times, it would be different each time.
Yes, you would create set only once, of course. But whenever you want to access any elements in the set, you cannot access those elements with the help of index. And if you were to create a new set with the same elements, it might be possible that the same elements would be placed in different order. Okay? So we can modify sets by adding or removing an element. So how do we modify? You see, sets are mutable, which means that we can change the value, we can add or remove the elements. So we can add the element with the help of add method. So now if you were to compare it with the list, how do we add elements in a list? Append method. Okay, so where does it depend? At the end. So with the help of add method in sets, we can actually add the new element, but we do not know where will it be added in the set. So here is an example. This is a set, and you specify dot add a my set, and you see a is placed somewhere in between. Okay. Remove item, we can also remove the item by their actual value. Okay, so if we know the value in a set, we can just specify that value and it will remove. If value does not exist, then it will throw off an error. So here, remove 6 removes the value 6 from the, so assuming that this is the original set, and specify remove 6, it actually removes the value 6 and returns the updated my set. Now if you try to remove 10, 10 does not exist, so it will throw off an error that the key does not exist. Okay? We can also use the pop method on sets to remove and return the random item from the set. Okay? So when I run a pop method, it automatically or randomly selects any element and remove it from the set. So from exam point of view, you might be given a data structure containing elements, and I may ask what would be the output of that name of that data structure dot pop method. You need to identify whether the data structure is a set or a list by just looking at it. If it is a list, then all the elements are arranged in square brackets, right? If it is a set, it's a curly braces. So when you run a pop method on list, what happens? When we run a pop method on a list, yep, it removes the last element. We do not specify any index, it removes the last element. When we run the same pop method on set, what does it return? It removes and returns any random element which you do not know which element will be removed. Okay? Sometimes, for example, you have to implement a functionality like you have a list of or like a structure containing some data, and you have to pick the random element. So you use the pop method. Okay? The pop method on set, it will randomly select any element and remove it from the data structure. Any other question? Great.